What's good, y'all? It's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speaks Sports once again. And we're going to be talking about this Alabama and Clemson game, this national championship game that took place out in Santa Clara, California. An absolute blowout. An absolute blowout. An absolute surprise for a lot of people. And here's the deal. Stephen A. Smith gets on ESPN. I got a lot of respect for Stephen A. Smith. I think he's an excellent sportscaster, but I think he got this one wrong. Stephen A. Smith said that basically this win that Clemson had over Alabama basically saved college football. I absolutely disagree because we've had dominating teams before. We had the U back in the mid 80s. We had Florida back in the 90s and on to the early 2000s. And we had USC for a brief moment in the early 2000s. And now we have Alabama. Alabama has won a whole bunch of championships since the Nick Saban era, but I don't think Clemson beating Alabama in this game saves college football. But what it does do, it helps the SEC out a lot. Because college football as a whole, they don't have to play Alabama every week, baby. They don't have to line up and play against that domination of all those 5-star and 4-star players who come in and out, and they can just replenish this thing every year. So I think if anything, it takes that bully factor away from Alabama in the SEC. Because even Kirby Smart said a lot of teams are defeated by Alabama before the game even starts. Because they're so intimidated. This air, this aura about Alabama is in place to where, a lot of teams just feel psyched out, punked out before the game even starts. One thing that I do believe about this game is it solidified something that was in development since the LSU game. I think Alabama was on a very, very sly decline since the LSU game. We started to see that Tua Tagovailoa was actually a human being. We started to see that there were some vulnerabilities once you put Tua Tagovailoa under some pressure, that he begins to make some errant decisions. When you start to close those passing windows, things get a little different for Tua Tagovailoa. So I think Georgia is the first SEC team to show this level of neutralization against Alabama. They pretty much dominated Alabama on every level possible, actually getting up 2 scores they should have won the football game. They should have won the football game in somewhat similar fashion to how Clemson did. But a few errant play calls down the stretch, they're starting to let Alabama ease back into the football game, and you lose the game by a touchdown. And subsequently, now we have Alabama in the playoffs once again taking on Oklahoma, Clemson taking on Notre Dame. Both of them took care of the teams that they played. And here we are in the national championship game that, Clemson just completely, utterly dominated Alabama in every facet of the football game, whether it's coaching, whether it's play calling. One play that stands out to me for Alabama was the quarterback sweep. I think it was late in the third quarter, where you have a quarterback sweep. And every lineman missed the assignments. I just did not understand that play call. I did not understand the field goal play call, the fake field goal play call. Absolutely ridiculous. 11, more than 5 yards to go. I just don't think you can call a play like that. So how did Clemson manage to dismantle Alabama? Well, number one is, unlike most of the season, Alabama had zero consequential pressure on Trevor Lawrence. Not many quarterback hurries. They were in his face when he threw the ball a lot of times. But Trevor Lawrence still was 20 for 32, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. We're going to get to that in just a second. I think A.J. Terrell's pick 6 at the beginning of the game really set the tone. This has never happened to Tua Tagovailoa, and for it to happen on the biggest stage possible, I think this set the stage for Clemson to understand and believe, to get their fan base involved, for them to believe that they had a really, really good shot at winning this football game, and that momentum just continued to carry. Etienne was very effective in the red zone. He had 2 touchdowns, but they were two very crucial touchdowns, 2 very back-breaking touchdowns for Etienne. And Bama's 2 costly turnovers, 2 horrible turnovers. One for pick 6, and one for they flipped the field for 40 yards. and got great field position. Like I said, horrible play calling, the worst fake call ever in this particular football game. Sensational football game played by Clemson. We'll look forward to some more action. We're definitely looking forward to the off season. We're looking forward to recruiting news. And at the end of the video, one thing I did notice in the highlights was the bar scenes. I want you all to vote on who had the best bar scene. I'm gonna tell you who mine is. Bama, baby. When you see that situation where the guy is, he every time Bama scores, he's like, "Bring it in." Having the ladies bring it in. Come on, group hug, group up. He was looking forward to this thing every time Alabama scored. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. I mean, he was on it. He was, as soon as that Bama scored, he's like, "Come on, y'all know what it is. Bring it in." So I think Clemson definitely had the best. Definitely had the best bar scene of this particular football game. But we have to remember, all things, will come to a plateau. I don't think Alabama's necessarily at a plateau. I think Clemson just had an incredible football team. I think we're taking away how good this team continued to develop throughout the season. I think we can't discredit development of Trevor Lawrence, a true freshman. The kid out of Alabama, Justin, who had a wonderful game, had a wonderful year. I'm trying to figure out how Alabama and Auburn let him get away, but I can speculate the reason they got away. Alabama's, pretty much loaded at receiver. They didn't need any more receivers. Auburn, they picked up Seth Williams. I think, Clemson did a great job of recruiting this young man out of Phoenix City, Alabama, and he's made an immediate impact. I mean, some of the catches that he was making, was just absolutely spectacular. For coming from a true freshman to play that clutch in a national championship game, I thought was absolutely amazing. But one of the key factors I thought was Alabama's inability to create things, to create the situations that they normally create, like quarterback pressure, not one single sack. And for a team like Alabama that's very uncharacteristic, they were one of the better teams as far as sacks go in the country. And for them to not be able to record a single sack, for them to not be able to get any takeaways, for them to not be able to get, any real opportunity. They weren't very opportunistic last night, a couple of nights ago. And it spelled trouble for Alabama. Tua Tagovailoa had a great game statistically, but when you factor in those 2 interceptions, that changes the trajectory of the game. Everything else was pretty much even. Time of possession was pretty good. The yards in comparison one to another, I thought was pretty good. But when you factor in those turnovers and the timing of it and how detrimental they were momentum-wise, that's where you at. When you look at this game, you look at the play of Justin. You look at the play of Etienne in the red zone. You look at Trevor Lawrence as just having excellent decision-making skills for a true freshman in the biggest stage possible. And then you factor in Alabama's defense being largely ineffective, especially in the secondary. They look lost pretty much the whole game. I have not seen these type of long plays being executed on an Alabama defense in a very long time. I want to congratulate Clemson on a very, very very successful season. I think Dabo Swinney is definitely on to something. I think he would be an absolute idiot if he decided to leave Clemson to go to, say, Alabama in the event that Nick Saban retires. He's doing his thing. He's developing a very nice dynasty over in Clemson. Not quite there yet, but he's definitely developing a good dynasty over there. Once again, is K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speak Sports. Man, it sucks that the season is over, man. So we're going to have to go back to looking at replays on YouTube videos and things like that, and then look at the recruiting, like who's coming in, just to kill some time in between the offseason. Y'all don't get too depressed now, because it's coming back around right before you know it. Spring football will be rolling around. Y'all take it easy.